Chris, thanks for doing this. Good morning. When the league shut down and postponed the season, you were one of, I believe it was 6 guys to play in all 69 games. At the time of the postponement, how well were you feeling? How good was the season going for you and your body? Because this has been the most games we've seen you playing in almost 5 years. How were you feeling when it all got shut down?
Hey, obviously, nice to talk to you. Yeah, I was feeling great. Obviously, I did tweak my knee a bit in the last game of the year, and I probably would have missed 5 or 6 games going in. But I mean, it felt great to play in every game of the season, and I felt good. I felt strong, and felt like I was playing well.
Chris, there's always the excitement when there's training camp rolling around in September, but how different is this getting started? I'm curious what the mental thought process is, and is it the same level of excitement? Obviously, there's a concern with the fact that we're still in a pandemic, but what's the mental, get up for you like, and for everybody in the dressing room as you prepare for a training camp and to play hockey in summertime?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's different. I can only speak for myself, but I'm super excited, and I think just skating with a bunch of the guys this week, you sort of get that feeling back. Like you said, it's September time, or now it's obviously July, but it's sort of a similar feeling, and you're anxious to get going and get skating, and obviously hopefully play in a few weeks.
Thanks, Chris. Nice seeing you again.
Nice seeing you too.
We'll go to Josh Clipperton of CP next.
Hey, Chris, thanks for doing this. I'm just wondering your reaction to the news yesterday, the tentative CBA and return to play agreement. Obviously a lot of work went into it, and now it goes to a vote, but just your thoughts on all that.
Yeah, I obviously a lot of guys put in a lot of hard hours. Obviously, there's a willingness between the league and the players to try to come to an agreement and move forward, and we'll see how the next few days go. But I mean, obviously the goal is that an agreement's made, and we go forward with training camp in probably early next week or so.
I mean, it's one thing to agree to play, but the CBA just seems like it was something that not a lot of people saw coming maybe, a few months ago. Is that just the sign of the times of how unprecedented the situation is, that the two sides were able to come together and hopefully get an agreement?
Yeah, I mean, I think in order to play, you sort of needed a new CBA just based the way contracts were set up, and when free agency was and when the draft was, everything had to get restructured. So they were going to have to do that regardless. Obviously, this deal adds some years to the CBA, but I mean, it seemed like both sides were willing to negotiate and come to an agreement, as I said before.
And just one final one for me. You're possibly a pending UFA. The economic climate has changed drastically. I mean, as a guy who's in that boat, what are you feeling, or just with the unknowns of what your next contract could look like and what the market could look like?
Yeah, I mean, I'm feel fine. I'm ready to play hockey. I think I'm going to get a contract regardless. I feel like I'm going to play well, and if we play playoffs, I'm confident in my abilities. So I mean, obviously, if the CBA does get voted through, you know what the salary cap's going to be, and you're going to have a flat cap for the next year or two. So I mean, you take all those things into effect, and I mean, as I said, I feel confident. I'm ready to play, and I know that I can play, and I'm confident in my abilities.
Great, thanks for doing this.
We'll go to Ian McIntyre next from Sportsnet.
Hey, Chris. Nice to see you again. I know you're going to miss these Zoom calls when they're all over. Can you just walk us through what training looks like for your group at this stage? I know there weren't a lot of guys who hung around town, and therefore you're not subject to the quarantine groups. Just tell me, who are you skating with? How much have you skated? What does a training day look like for you?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few guys now. So I mean, me, Stetch, Eagle, I've been here the whole time, and then Mizey and Jake were in Kelowna. They drove in, and then the guys from Alberta Furley have drove in. So I mean, there's a good group of us now skating. Usually get into the building 6:45 in the morning. Start my warm up. We'll do an hour workout or so, then sort of have 20-30 minutes of downtime, and get on the ice for an hour 15 minutes, and then after you skate, you got to be out of the building by a certain time, so the cleaners and everything can clean everything before the next group of guys come in.
Are you getting some bubble envy from the other guys that you have some freedoms that they don't?
Oh yeah, I think a few guys aren't as happy as us who have the freedom to walk around and do things outside of the hotel room. That's for sure.
All right. Now I want to ask you just about Jake, and obviously there's a lot of publicity a few days ago about him going out to a club with some friends. As a teammate, what did you think when you heard about that or saw that, and did it concern you?
Yeah, I mean, I think he knows he made a little bit of a mistake, but I mean, he's tested now. I believe twice, and he's tested negative. So I mean, it's obviously a tough situation when you're not technically in quarantine and you're allowed to go out and do what you want. But I mean, you got to keep everyone in mind that we're trying to create a safe environment for everyone. So I mean, whether he's at a club or, I mean, you're just as likely to get it going to the grocery store or doing things like that. So I mean, it's obviously tough, and I think he knows that that was obviously the wrong decision. But I mean, I think him and guys seeing that now going forward will be smarter.
Okay, thank you. I think they call that a teachable moment.
Yes.
Thanks.
Go to Brendan Batchelor next.
Hey, Chris, hope you're doing well. Just first of all, want your thoughts on the safety procedures that you've seen through phase 2, being back at the rink, and how that's all been going for you.
Yeah, it's gone smoothly. So I mean, it's pretty standard stuff. You wash your hands, sanitize your hands when you're not working out or on the ice. You have a mask on when you're in contact with the trainers that are at the rink if you're getting treatment or things like that. So I mean, it's all pretty standard, and it's quite easy to follow.
And in light of some of the issues we're seeing some of the other leagues have with where they've chosen to have their hubs, whether it's the NBA or Major League Soccer, just your thoughts and reaction to the fact that both hub cities will be in Canada, where things seem to be a fair bit safer right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good decision. I mean, both places we're going seem to have the virus contained to a certain extent. So I mean, it's obviously with everything going on, things change every day and change every hour. But at the moment, I think it was a very smart call by the league to pick those two cities.
And last one for me, with you having been home a lot more throughout all this time, has Riley enjoyed having you around a bit more here?
No, I think he's sick of me around. He likes his alone time. He likes to nap, and I think we've been bugging him, keeping him awake, taking him on too many walks. So I don't know how happy he is about that.
Thanks, Chris.
No worries.
Go to Thomas Drance of The Athletic next. Thomas, are you there? Okay, we'll move on to Carol Schramm.
Hi, Chris. Thanks for doing this. I'm thinking back to 2011 when you had your first NHL playoff experiences. Wondering what still sticks out in your memory from that, and if there are memories or lessons that you'll be able to share from that experience with some of your younger teammates as you go ahead here.
Yeah, I was pretty nervous. I think jumping into the middle of the playoffs, playing on, obviously we are a very good team, and then playing some very, very high end other teams against guys that you sort of grew up idolizing your whole life. So I mean, it's definitely a little bit nerve wracking. But I mean, once you get the blood flowing and the juices going, I think it's fun. I mean, I think that's the best way to describe it. It's every shift matters, every little play matters, and I think that's why playoff hockey and the Stanley Cup is so hard to win.
And have you thought much about how different the atmosphere is going to be with no fans in the stands, no home games, no road games, none of that animosity either, as well as the support that you get from your home side?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't thought about it too much, but yeah, it's going to be very different for sure. I think the momentum swings will be quite different, especially when you don't have fans cheering for you, or when you're on the road city, when sort of the rink gets going and the other team can maybe get 5 or 7 minutes of a big momentum swing. It's going to be different to see how that plays out for sure.
Great, thank you.
Welcome.
Next, we'll go to David Satriano of NHL.com.
Hey, you're the second longest tenured player on the team. It's been 4 or 5 seasons since you guys are in the playoffs. You kind of touched on it, but I know the circumstances are different. But as a veteran and a leader, do you need to talk to the younger guys about the opportunity, because things are so different? You might not get this chance, as to be in the playoffs every year. And even though things are different, I mean, it seems like you should have as good a chance as anyone with what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, I was fortunate enough my first few years in the league to be able to play in the playoffs, and as you said, we haven't had that, haven't been able to do it in the recent years. So I mean, I think guys understand that. I don't need to go and tell them that it's given that you're going to make the playoffs every year, or you're going to go far in the playoffs. So I mean, guys are smart, and our young guys are our best players, and they'll be ready to go. And on the other point, I think we have just as good of a shot as anyone to win this thing. So I think we're going to be ready to go once the puck drops.
Great, thanks.
Just providing an opportunity for the individual that's phoned in to ask a question.
Yeah, hi, it's me. It's Jim Morris. Can you hear me, Chris?
I can.
Yeah, thanks for doing this, Chris. Couple thoughts. No other players being asked about this, but what about the whole idea of going away, maybe spending several weeks in a bubble? Maybe I understand you might even get access to your family to, I think the second month, something like that, or later in the month. What are your thoughts as you get ready for that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with it. I don't have kids. Me and my fiance have been away a lot longer than 4 or 6 weeks from each other. So I mean, I think we'll be fine with it. Obviously, it's tougher with guys that have families and have young kids. I mean, obviously, it's tough to be away for 4 or 6 weeks without seeing them. But as I said, I'm fine with it.
And just another question. It was touched a little earlier on. You look around, you see some of the issues Major League Soccer is having right now, with actually one team being forced to drop out of the tournament, the Whitecaps games being changed around. Major League Baseball is having some issues about testing. Do you have any thoughts or concerns about these issues as the NHL moves into its next phase?
No, but I mean, we'll see what happens once everyone gets into training camp, and how many positive tests there are, and how controlled the virus is. I mean, as I said earlier, I think that everything changes daily or even hourly. So I mean, as you said, obviously there is a chance that one team could become highly infected, and that sort of could ruin a lot of things. But I mean, it's we'll see what happens as we get into camps and as we get into the bubble cities. Hopefully no guys are infected as we go into the bubble, and hopefully it stays that way.
And just one last thing. You touched on this earlier. Do you think staying in Canada was the best decision, considering what is going on in the States for the hub cities?
Yeah, I think it was a smart decision. I mean, wherever they could create a safe environment for us and create a safe bubble. I mean, technically, once you're in the bubble, regardless of where it is, everyone, if they follow the rules, should be safe. So I mean, it's going to be a safe environment. We've had our players' doctors go over stuff with us a bunch, and the league doctors are doing a good job too. So I mean, it's something that no one really has ever experienced. So there's going to be learning experiences on the way. But yeah, I think they did a good job picking the two cities.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thomas, we'll give you another chance if your mic issues are resolved.
Well, let me know. Test. Can you hear me, Chris?
Yep.
Perfect. You'd think I'd be more veteran at the Zoom game by now. Hope you've been well. As a player who stayed locally, I'm curious to hear more about what your experience has been like during this hiatus. And did you track closely the province's reaction over the past 2-3 months?
Their reaction to
just to the virus and the crisis that we've sort of encountered here.
Yeah, I followed everything fairly closely. So I mean, I like to try to stay on top of things. Yeah, I stayed here, and obviously at the start of everything, you're pretty much in your house, and that's it. You went to do your grocery shop once every week or once every couple days, and that's it. And that's slowly evolved over time. And as the province has done a good job of stopping the spread of the virus, more things have slowly opened up, and you've been able to do more as time has gone.
As someone who's been in Vancouver now for the entirety of your NHL career, were you grateful to be staying locally, especially as amenities and sort of normal life has begun to return here over the past few months?
Yeah, I mean, I think we talk about it quite a bit, that it was probably our best decision that we made, was to stay here, and instead of going back home in Ontario, where they've sort of, everything's calmed down there now, but it took a lot longer than it did here. So I mean, we've been able to enjoy ourselves and enjoy the outdoors of beautiful British Columbia, and go on hikes and walk the dog and go to the park and do things like that, where we may not have done for weeks if we hadn't gone back home and to Toronto.
And just a final one for me, 6 days out from reporting to a training camp in normal times, you know, you'd be sort of looking at fitness testing and making sure you're certainly eating all the right things. Do you have a similar feeling now going back to this sort of summer training camp, this phase 3, as you would usually? And if not, how does it differ from what you'd be used to in, you know, a customary training camp preparation scenario?
I mean, I think mentally it's the same. You're getting ready to go, and whenever the day is that it starts, I think everyone will be ready and mentally prepared. Obviously we're not there's no fitness testing and stuff like that, but I mean, depending on where everyone was in the world, they're allowed to do different things. So I mean, I feel strong. I've worked out and been skating for quite a while now, so I feel ready to go whenever that date is.
Thanks, man.
Welcome.
We'll allow time for just a few more questions and may not get to everyone's follow-ups, but next we'll go to Pete Jensen at NHL.com.
Hey, Chris, thanks for doing this. Just had a question about Quinn Hughes. Obviously, he's had a historic rookie season, and you've been a part of it, paired with him frequently on D. So your thoughts on his candidacy for the Calder Trophy? And also, I know you touched on your contract situation moving forward. How much do you want to play with Quinn Hughes for the long term after you've seen what he's done as a rookie?
Yeah, I'll do the latter half. I'd love to stay here and play with Quinn as long as I'm able to. I think we played great together when we did this year, and I think we both enjoyed it. And as far as his Calder run, yeah, I mean, I personally think he deserves it. I think he's extremely dynamic player that is only going to get better and better for this organization, and it was pretty special what he did this year.
Okay. I'm going to just provide an opportunity here to Josh Clipperton, if you do have that follow-up question, Josh.
Yeah, thanks. Sorry, Chris. Just wondering, in terms of you've been skating for a number of weeks, but just the quality of the hockey. I mean, we've heard varying opinions across the league of what it's going to be like, especially early. What are you expecting? Guys will be desperate and, you know, excited to play, but just in terms of what the hockey will look like.
Yeah, I honestly have no idea. I think it's going to be obviously the play-in series, depending on, or I don't know if there's an exhibition game or 2 games or what's going on, but that play-in series is going to be, I think, a lot different for guys where you're sort of jumping into playoffs and maybe only playing 1 game. So that's it's going to be very different. But I think as that series gets passed and you start to get into the second and third rounds, the hockey will get quite good as guys get playing more, obviously.
Just with coaches, I mean, coaches sometimes 3 or 4 days to prepare is a long time. They've had 3 or 4 months. What are you expecting? I mean, hopefully there's not too much information, I'm guessing.
Oh, I'm sure they'll have a lot of information about Minnesota. So I think they'll know every little detail about the team and every player. So I mean, I'm sure as we get closer to camp and sort of closer to playing against them, we'll be getting a lot of info.
Great. Thanks again for doing this.
No worries.
Okay, 2 final questions. We'll go to Rob Williams at Daily Hive next and follow that up with Ian McIntyre.
Yeah, hi, Chris. Yeah, my question's also about the Minnesota Wild, an unprecedented situation where you know your playoff opponent for weeks and months here. Have you been doing any kind of studying up on your opponent on your own? Do you consider yourself an expert on the Wild yet?
No, I mean, I've played them enough, and I think I've played most of their guys enough to, you sort of know how everyone plays. And obviously they have quite a few big, strong centermen and a really good decor. And I think Fiala was carrying them a lot sort of towards the end of the stoppage there. And he's a very skilled player, and he can put the puck in the net. So, I mean, they're a well-balanced team. They have a lot of veteran experience, and it's going to be a tough series for us.
Thank you.
All right, Ian McIntyre finishes us off. Final question.
Hey, Chris, you mentioned playoff experience. I think there's a narrative about your team that this is great for all the young guys to get experience of playing these playoff games, even though technically it's not a playoff series yet. But you also have older players, and yourself, you haven't been in the playoffs since 15. How much urgency do you feel to seize this opportunity, and why do you think this team can actually do things beyond just get experience in this summer tournament?
Yeah, I mean, I think when we were healthy, we could play anyone this year and go toe-to-toe with them. So Markey was great. I thought we played almost every team when we were healthy and played well. We can beat anyone. And then the first part, yeah, I mean, we haven't been in the playoffs in 4 or 5 years. So I mean, you never know when you're gonna get the next chance. So I mean, anytime you're in, I mean, I guess it's not a play-in series or playoffs or whatever it is. I mean, you want to go out and try to seize the opportunity.